We are sworn in. There's going to be an election sermon at 4 o'clock at the Capitol in the Capitol Auditorium. And on the back table on the right as you go out, if you'd like to see the program, you may pick one of those up, particularly if you're going to come, but if you want to just pray for it. We're continuing a tradition that was established in the founding of our country. And when the court was assembled and after they had been elected, they would invite the local minister to come in and preach the Word of God concerning the role of a civil magistrate. In fact, when they had the militia was elected, they would invite the minister to come in and preach concerning what it meant to be a good soldier. And so we've continued that tradition, and this will be the third time we've done that. And we have a number of ministers that are going to be coming to pray and to preach. And I'm glad to report that more than about 2/3 of the legislature are sponsoring this activity. It's been a blessed time. And if you're at the Capitol on Tuesday week, 13th, I hope you'll not only come by my office and say hello, but that you'll come to the election sermon. We continue a great tradition there. It's been a great blessing. It's attended by both parties and been supported by many legislators. Then the next day, we will adopt the House rules. And I have many of y'all remember as a freshman when I came back, I told a story about what it was like trying to figure out why the clock stood still behind the dais. I thought I was back in the Old Testament and the Lord was causing the sun to stand still. But we do that so that we can look like we keep other rules. Because we say that we're going to meet at a certain time. So what happened in my first session is they just stopped the clock. And it might be 20 minutes later, 25 minutes later, but all of a sudden, when the speaker gavelled us in and we convened, the clock would go from 10 o'clock to 10:25, just like that. And so I was wondering why that took place, and it's because we're good Pharisees. We break one rule to look like we're keeping another one. And if you look in the official records of our doing, we are very punctual. We meet just when we say we're doing, but the fact is we really don't. We lie about it. We bear false witness. But as I talked about that and the importance of it, the speaker did listen, and his parliamentarian. And last time, on average, we met within 2 to 5 minutes of the time we actually showed that we met. So we only fit just a little bit. Most of the time, they really tried to meet on time. There were a few times I saw the clock go back, 10 to 40 minutes at one point. We actually kept a little journal to see how they were doing. But overall, they did real well. And I'm encouraged that they may adopt my honest clock amendment and bake it into the proposed rules to adopt, and I won't have to go to the front mic and make an amendment to the rules. To have the journal clerk actually record the time that we did convene or recess or adjourn. Now, it's not that important when you're just getting a little history lesson. But what is important at the end of session, when all the bills are dying, what they would used to do, they would just stop the clock at 11:59 right before midnight. And they'd pass all the bills that they wanted to pass until about 4 a.m., and then it would strike midnight. And that's because of the Constitution. If we can't be faithful on little things, we're not going to be faithful in big things. They go together. And I think this is a step forward, and it's the Longview News Journal and you people that got the word back to Austin. They came up to me and told me about the speeches I was giving back here in the district and about what was printed about having an honest clock. Another rule that I do hope to make a change on is that We go through a lot of effort to pass a budget. At the beginning of session, we have a huge committee in both the Senate and the House hearing all the proposals and concerning how much money we should have for this or that program. And then by the end of session, we pass those bills, or before the end of session, and they go to a conference committee. Then 5 members from the House and 5 members from the Senate end up determining what's in the budget. And it's done mainly in private. In fact, the rules explicitly require the Lieutenant Governor and the Speaker of the House to strictly enforce the rules concerning conference committees, that they will not discuss anything outside the bounds of the 2 different bills. Let's say if the Senate wants to spend $150 million on this program and the House wants to spend $100 million. Well, the conference committee is only supposed to reconcile the differences between the $100 million and the $150 million. They're not supposed to talk about going to $200 million or $50 million. Not even to discuss it. That's what the language in the House rules say. But they usually don't meet. They usually just go around one by one. The rules require that when you meet with the Senate conferees, you notify the press and invite them and you give due notice and whatnot. But they interpret "and when you shall meet" as meaning that you don't have to meet. And so they just do it one at a time many times. And so what happens is they actually do discuss things outside those bounds. In fact, what happens, and what I was doing right before we voted on the budget, I was bringing some points of order 2 years ago, or almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, explaining that we haven't really had a lot of time to read 175 pages worth of outside the bounds changes to the budget. And that was brought to the House about 2 hours before. It was supposed to be available to the public, and it really wasn't. Anyway, so my proposed rule change is that they would actually meet and that we would discuss those things in public. So we'd know if they were actually going outside the bounds when the rules said they shouldn't. And it wouldn't just be dependent upon me bringing a point of order or someone else. And I just want to underscore, I didn't have many people vote with me when I brought those points of order. In fact, they were overruled, but they still could have voted against the outside the bounds resolution. And there is real problems. Not just the speaker. It's not just the parliamentarian. I need 75 more votes to make a change with respect to that process. It's not just the leadership, it's the makeup of the Texas House. We are making progress. We had about 40-something people vote against the budget. And the Speaker was really glad to get his majority and gavelled us in. He did apologize to me for not allowing me to vote. I was pretty upset because to the average person, if you go to the Journal, you know what it's going to say?
Did not vote.
Simpson, absent.
Yep.
But I'm right there. I'm trying to hurry to my seat without breaking the rules of decorum, which I was accused of doing in the first session.
Couldn't get somebody to ghost vote for you?
Beg your pardon?
Couldn't get somebody to ghost vote for you?
Well, you can have him vote for you, but he wasn't looking. My desk mate was not looking at me. I was saying 2. But I could not get there in time. And I am careful, and I tell them, do not vote for me unless you know what I want you to do. And that is a problem. Some of you have seen that. It is okay to do it. It's a big room. Many times you only have a few seconds, and you're working on this member over here, and your desk is over here. So you just raise your hand, 1 or 2, and tell your desk mate how to vote. That's legitimate. What isn't legitimate is when you're in Alaska and you're voting. Or in Hawaii, or in Dallas. I've seen it happen. So anyway, not just the Speaker enforces the rules. but the whole body. In fact, that's what the congressional precedent states. I think back in what was it, Michael? 23. That very point was made. Anyway, those are two